So, bye bye La
Mhm.
La Land. Coming back to Marvel, what do you think about the cinematic universe now that we know a multiverse does exist? Because as we saw into the multiverse, Spider Man,
The
Sunflower,
Spider-Verse, yeah.
Post Malone, yes, it was one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. But
100%.
coming to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, now that we know the existence uh, of a multiverse is confirmed. What's your take on that?
My take on the whole multiverse thing, or you asked something before that, but I forgot. Sorry.
What I mean to say is, what's your take on multiverse now that we know a multiverse does exist in Marvel?
I think it's the most exciting thing that's happened in the MCU. It's just going to be incredible, especially with the rumors about Spider-Man No Way Home,
Oh
which
God.
I think honestly is going to break the record for the box office numbers.
Hmm.
There's just so much hype behind that movie, unlike any other, and it's because of the multiverse, because of the fact that
That
the
one
villains are
news,
confirmed.
that one news of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming
Yeah.
back and Willem Dafoe coming back
Willem
as the
Dafoe,
Green
Jamie
Goblin.
Foxx,
Jamie
Alfred
Foxx,
Molina.
oh my God. And because I was disappointed when they took down Amazing Spider-Man franchise, because I was really
Yeah,
looking forward. I cried when
yeah. That
Gwen
scene is
Stacy died.
just
It was
it's
heartbreaking.
I do have a bunch of complaints about the amazing. Although I do love them, they had a death wish for Gwen Stacy ever since the start. You could tell that they were itching to kill her character for some reason.
It was
But
heartbreaking.
yeah.
But they teased the Sinister Six, and
Mhm.
for people who've traveled in this world beyond the MCU, who've actually read comics and watched those animated movies, and that weekly Amazing Spider-Man cartoon. It used to,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It was
growing
so
up,
good.
the Sinister Six, it makes everything so much more relatable, and you start anticipating so much, and you're so excited. It's so intriguing, and I think
Exactly.
that one tease was enough. I'm sorry to say this, I absolutely love DC, but that
Mhm.
one news was enough to
But the
destroy the
thing is,
whole
the thing is,
DC cinematic universe.
the thing is, first of all, of course, I'm so excited for this. We can expect Spider-Man No Way Home trailer in within the next 2 weeks, I think, from the reports that I've at least seen. It is almost
Crossed.
confirmed that we're going to get it in 2 weeks. And cinemas in the US, people who work at cinemas in the US have already reported that they have received the physical projection for the trailer.
Oh wow.
But what I also want to point out is that this whole thing with the multiverse, the only thing that has been confirmed on Marvel's end
Hmm.
is that Alfred Molina, who played Doctor Octopus in Spider-Man 2, in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, the Tobey Maguire one, and Jamie Foxx from The Amazing Spider-Man from Andrew
Electro.
Garfield. Yeah, the only thing that's confirmed is that those two are back and they're going to be in the movie, and Doctor Strange is going to be in the movie. And Doctor Strange's sequel that's coming up is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Hmm.
So the thing that I'm worried about right now is that me and you were excited. We're like, yes, we're gonna see
Yeah,
Toby and
I
Andrew on screen. What happens on December 16th when we leave the cinema and Toby and Andrew don't show up?
I have a
What
heavy
happens
heart
then?
already. Yeah,
Who do
honestly,
we
I have a
blame?
heavy heart
Because
already.
who do we blame? Because I think it's our fault. I think as much as we love to fantasize and theorize about these things.
I mean, we are
It's
only human, man. It's okay to
Yeah,
expect, but okay, we can't live on the condition that Marvel exists to, satisfy all our desires. But
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
you're absolutely right. But I think this has started a fad amongst, the whole, I would say, not just comics, but like considering motion pictures in general, considering Hollywood. Now that
Mm,
Marvel being one of the biggest entities in Hollywood, and one of the highest grossing entities in Hollywood. It has
Hmm.
started this fad that,
Cinematic
production
universes.
houses need to have, cinematic universes. Like now DC
Yeah.
has, confirmed that they're going they're going to be three
Yeah.
Batmen. And it feels so weird while saying that, because I can get used to Batboy, Batgirl, Batwoman, everything I can get used to. I can even imagine Alfred walking down the street in the Cape Crusaders costume. But
Yeah.
I can't get used to saying Batmen.
Hmm.
Imagine three Batmen existing
Yeah.
at the same timeline. Robert
Yeah.
Pattinson and uh,
Ben Affleck,
Ben Affleck and
Michael
Michael
Keaton.
Keaton. Yeah, right.
Yes.
What's your take on that? These like multiple cinematic universes.
I think as much as the MCU is a blessing to the world, the cinematic, and obviously this wasn't the intent of Kevin Feige when he started the MCU. He was just looking out for his own thing. He wanted to develop his own cinematic universe, but I guess it comes down to the fact that all these other studio execs have seen, the kind of money that Marvel makes, and
The
suddenly
potential.
everyone thinks everyone thinks they can make a cinematic universe. I would not be surprised if they made a movie about a rickshawala in India, and then the first movie does great. I wouldn't be surprised if within 2 minutes of noticing that the studio exec announced the cinematic universe, the rickshawala cinematic universe. It's really annoying to me sometimes,
Bizarre.
especially with movies like Godzilla and
Mhm.
and King Kong. I mean, I did watch Godzilla versus Kong recently, and I guess it was fine, but there's no need. Why do you want to attach that title of cinematic universe? The cinema four movies isn't a cinematic universe. You know what I mean? A
Right.
cinematic universe is like Marvel. It's 20 plus movies. So it's
Plus, you need to
I think
establish those characters well before we started
exactly that's the main thing.
anticipating. Yeah, before we started anticipating, you know, a
Avengers.
solo Loki flick or WandaVision, them talking
Hmm.
about their relationship and what goes around them. Because when Wanda was teased, I don't know, back in the early to
Winter
2010.
Soldier. She was in the post credit scene for that, and
Yeah,
then
the
Age of
post-credit
Ultron. She
scene
was
where you can see her brother also, and
yeah, yeah.
they received, technically they are Magneto's children, but yeah, in the Marvel
From
Cinematic,
the comics. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
from the comics, yeah. And I mean, X-Men has their own Quicksilver. They don't call him Quicksilver, but okay, anyway. And
Hmm.
they were teased. But even when Wanda was included in the Age of Ultron, she wasn't given
Hmm.
as much screen time. And
Screen
over
time.
the years, you know, uh, she was there for Endgame. She was
It's
there
all
for,
about development.
yeah, exactly. It's about establishing the character's significance. It's about establishing the character's persona, what kind of
Mhm.
influence, what kind of, how obviously every single they act like variables. They're going to influence the whole situation. Had, Carol Denver not been there at the end of
Yeah,
Endgame, how could have they defeated Thanos? So it's a variable. Every
exactly.
character acts like a variable. So I think people are rushing. It's a game of patience. It's a game of
Exactly.
patience. And DC should,
100%.
I'm specifically talking about DC right now. And there is something DC needs to understand, that in spite of having, a very well established and, um, I would say crazy fan following for their comics, because they're much darker. There's so many different kinds of interpretations and versions and blah blah blah. They've given us some of the most iconic characters. They've given us the first superhero ever, and their first superhero,
Exactly.
Superman, was so glorified that he carried the whole solar system on his back. The
Yeah,
man is the man is practically speaking, literally speaking, he's immortal. He's been around for
yeah.
ages. And they've given us Joker, one of the best villains of all time. I mean, the Joker curse uh,
Movie icon.
might be very very real. You can
Mm.
see the difference in Joaquin's, persona these days.
Beautiful
But
performance.
yeah, but what a
Joaquin's
performance.
performance was incredible. Yeah.
Incredible. He gave the character a whole different personality altogether. Arthur Fleck was
Yeah,
never the Jack
exactly.
Napier we anticipated. And I tell you, I'm sorry to say this right now in the middle of this podcast, but I'm obsessed with the Joker. I have
Yeah.
read every single comic out there. I've seen
Mm,
every single animated movie. I've seen every single motion picture out there that includes the Joker. And
mm.
that character has so many different interpretations. And DC had so much potential with it. But now, when they've established Joaquin as the Joker, he's not being included in the DC cinematic universe. So
But the
I
thing is,
it just sometimes feel like such a big entity does not have its affairs in orders. They don't have their priorities in orders because maybe they're not listening to their consumers. The kind of I mean, it's not like Ryan Reynolds is a bad actor. He did incredibly well as Deadpool, but the kind of script they gave him for Green Lantern and X-Men,
origins,
X-Men
yeah,
Origins. What was that? Why was that?
exactly. But the thing is, the thing I want to point out here is you said something about the Joker, which I feel like I disagree. I don't want Joker to be in a cinematic universe. You know what I mean? I think it's all about sticking to your strengths. So we know Marvel has established their strengths, their main strength of
You have to
linking
agree
all.
that DC is slightly more realistic.
Of course, but that's not what I'm
I mean,
pointing at here.
Arthur Fleck wouldn't survive in a battle. Let's be honest. He might
Exactly,
be psychotic.
exactly.
He can obviously curate plans and everything and evil schemes. I agree. I'm not talking about Arthur Fleck's Joker in particular,
Of
but
course, no, I'm
hmm,
saying the whole thing about cinematic universes. I don't want to see. I mean, obviously there is an established DCEU now, but I think they would be better off if they wrap up this arc of the DCEU right now. Start fresh. You've got a great Joker movie, one of the best Joker movies ever. Incredible performance. You got Robert Pattinson's Batman showing up. Don't don't connect it. It's fine. I see that greed, but
hmm.
you there's a reason, Marvel is like the Apple of comic book movies, so it's just stick to your strengths. I feel like keep them. I would really appreciate, there's different levels and different meanings of appreciation we find in like these different things. So like for DC, I can appreciate the Joker is, and it's a masterpiece, I think, and it's amazing. And the fact that it's a solo thing, and the fact that the director and the producers and everything, on their mind it was just okay, this is a one movie thing, let's put our all into it, that's done, that's it. Because also the thing with cinematic universes is, I mean, obviously I'm not a director, but I do imagine that there's that thing that, oh, I want to do something in this movie, but wait, should I wait for the sequel, or should I wait for when this character interacts with that to include this point? But that's just
Yeah.
robbing
So
us of these
you
moments,
have so many plot lines going on simultaneously, and
exactly.
all these movies in the cinematic universe don't have the same directors. They
Yeah.
don't have the same directors, and obviously every single director has a different mindset and has a
Mm.
different idea of how to approach this thing in terms of creativity or in terms of execution. And so it's very difficult for one to be able to include all these plot lines and somewhat maintain that continuity and justify why this thing happened. Why was Wanda teased back in Civil War, sorry, Winter Soldier? So there's
Yeah.
so much potential over there, but I believe these big production houses are in a rush to monetize, to just now that Marvel has its own amusement park. Marvel has its own amusement
Exactly.
park. They're
Avengers
monetizing
Campus.
on it big time. They're monetizing on it big time. But that is because they're reaping the fruit, they're reaping the crop now because they've been
Yeah,
working so hard for almost, say, more than a decade. For more than
exactly.
a decade.
The MCU, the planning started in
I,
2006.
I, I dare you,
Yeah,
except obviously the Christopher Nolan trilogy.
trilogy.
Name,
Yeah,
yeah, name five good DC movies.
I can't, which sucks because I want to see. there's this whole thing about, oh, if you like Marvel, then you have to hate DC. I'm a comic book fan. I want good
Same,
movies from both ends. You know what I
same,
mean?
exactly.
Yeah.
Some
And
days
there's
I
also
want
this
their
thing
multi universes to collide, like Crisis on Two Earth, two Superman and everything.
yeah,
But yeah,
so good, so
someday
good.
I want to see Superman help, Iron Man get his shit together. Pardon my language, but
That would be amazing. But yeah, also you brought up the Avengers Campus, which is an amusement park, it reminds me of Martin Scorsese's criticism of the MCU,
I
where
love
he in
Scorsese
an interview he
because
was asked
hmm,
about what he thinks about the Marvel movies, and although I understand that he didn't mean it with bad intent, he did say that
right.
that they're amusement, or at least he believes them to be amusement park movies. So I just wanted to know, because I know you're like very interested and you love Scorsese, as
Absolutely,
does so many
absolutely.
people. I wanted to know what you thought about that.
See, if you look at this situation from the point of view of a loyal Marvel fan, uh,
Mm,
gives you a whole different meaning. It's like sanity. You have to protect it. It's like an obligation. It's like that pressure.
yeah,
Okay, if it's not Xbox, it's going to be PS. You have to defend your Apple iPhone, no matter how better the Samsung next door might be.
yeah,
And
yeah,
but you need to realize Scorsese is, I guess, 82 years old now, right?
yeah,
And he has lived through the six. He was raised in Little Italy, and the movies he has given us over the years. And him talking
correct.
about CGI and everything. If you look at his work, his most
Mm.
recent work, The Irishman, the
Has a
kind
lot
of,
of CGI,
oh my God,
doesn't
the
it?
kind of technology they've used, they have revolutionized the whole industry, because
Mm.
they needed to work around the aging of the characters, mind you, the characters and not the actors.
Yeah.
uh De Niro was portraying Frank Sheeran. Al
Mm.
Pacino was portraying Jimmy Hoffa, some of the most significant characters in American history. And if they wanted to just make them look younger, they had so much to work with, because what, Al Pacino has been around since the 70s. De Niro has been around since the 70s.
Yeah,
It's been nearly 50 years. You can pick up any of their movies and just
yeah,
replicate those those facial features and how they aged over the years, how the substance acted on them, how their environment, everything acted. But Scorsese worked so religiously towards de-aging those characters and not those actors. I mean, there's a whole documentary available for this, and the work he did was remarkable. It's more than a 3 hour long movie, but
yeah. I know.
hooked.
I haven't
You're
seen it,
hooked.
but I'm aware of.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It
Yeah.
empowers you. I mean,
Is it a
he's
slow
been,
burn though? Is
huh?
it a slow burn though? Slow burn or
Somewhat. I would say in the second half, because like the first half goes off like this, and you're expecting like the movie's over, but you're like, oh, I'm barely an hour into it. But yeah,
so? What do
in
you
the,
think about the comment then about what he said about MCU? Then what do you think about
see,
it then?
People like Scorsese, people like Tarantino, these are conventional guys.
Hmm.
The you have to stop
So it's
treating,
somewhat expected.
yeah, you have to stop treating them like new age directors, because see,
Yeah.
I mean with no, I mean this, I am trying to say this with no offense, but you,
Hmm.
till an extent, you can't teach old horses new tricks. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can't
Of
change
course.
their ideologies, because their ideologies have been in practice for decades now, and
Hmm.
it's reaping them great rewards. And Scorsese and Tarantino, some of the most established men in the industry. And
Of course.
I'm
Legends.
I'm an Indian kid. I
Yeah.
grew up watching Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
I watch Scorsese and Tarantino, not because I'm trying to be pretentious or I'm trying to fit in, but I genuinely appreciate you know the beauty in their
You have
work.
that love for cinema.
I have that love for cinema, and they
Yeah.
make everything. They make everything so impactful. And I was just working on a piece. I actually did it. I did two pieces, one on Tarantino, one on
Hmm.
Scorsese, like very recently.
I need to read
And
that, bro. I need to read it.
There's this one specific term I use for Scorsese, that
Hmm.
he's a film beautician. He has
Yeah.
glorified the idea of Italian American mafia. Obviously, he
Yeah.
did not want to show, the Sicilians and everybody in a bad light. But you need to realize Goodfellas is one of
Yeah.
the best movies in American history. So the
Yeah.
guy has seen his fair share of cinema, has participated in a fair share of cinema, and
Hmm.
if he has a different point of view, you can't just lash out on him. Give him the
Exactly.
due
Yeah.
respect.
Like me and you were huge fans of the MCU, of course. But when he said that, I mean, I didn't, because I respect him as a filmmaker. I respect him as an artist. I was like, fair enough. I mean, I did see a lot of. It's like, to the point when there was all this news about he was getting hate from a lot of MCU fans and stuff. That's when I felt a little annoyed, because it's like, guys, you're, first of all, it's an opinion, right? Secondly, you're harassing an 80-year-old man. It just didn't sit right with me. I didn't like that. But yeah, I and also I do appreciate that he didn't say they weren't bad. He didn't say they were bad. He
Hmm.
just said that to him they were just not cinema. Which, I mean, fair enough. Which, it's not surprising coming from a guy, who's done the things he's done. It's
Mihir,
yeah.
you need to realize something.
Hmm.
You look at these videos, these behind the scenes from Marvel,
Yeah.
movie, all you see are, green
Green
screens
screens,
and all these different kinds of props and
motion
arrangements to make
capture
these
stuff. Yeah.
movies look as realistic as they can. But Scorsese, who's commented on this and talking about his role, the kind of group he fits into. These guys don't look for these artificial. Again, I mean, no disrespect. I'm here
Yeah.
representing Marvel. I'm here advocating Marvel, and I'm
Hmm.
here having this very passionate conversation with you about Marvel. But
Yeah.
these guys don't. They try to make things as realistic as they can,
Of course.
right? From the camera movements to, I mean, he's 80 and he still manages the camera on his own.
Yeah,
That is a
exactly. And
wonderful.
that camera isn't light.
Yeah, it's
That
not
camera is
light.
not
I can
light.
tell you that for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at Nolan, he falls into the same category. The way
Yeah.
he designs his sets, the way he did the sets for Inception, he could have
Hmm.
simply used CGI. You see the difference?
Yeah.
You see the
But then the
difference?
thing is, with Irishman, you mentioned this before, which is, this is kind of funny
It's contradictory
about
somehow.
Scorsese's um statement. What's kind of funny to me is, obviously, in the Irishman he used the de-aging technology and stuff like that.
It's not
That was first
technology. It's
introduced.
not, huh?
It was introduced by Marvel, which was, that was kind of funny to me. But obviously, I mean, I understand that he wants to.
Tony
uh,
Stark talking to his father.
Tony Stark talking to his
Yeah.
parents. Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson and Captain Marvel, just stuff like that. So I feel like that was kind of funny to me. But then I also understand that obviously you have to, just because he doesn't think that they're the greatest movies, doesn't mean that he won't want to make his own movie
Mm.
good and utilize all the technology. So yeah, I don't know. I just think it's an interesting
The
area of
Apple uses
conversation.
the OLED display, which is created by Samsung, but that does
Exactly.
not mean they're not going to be
Exactly.
rivals or competitors. But yeah,
Exactly.
it's a whole different school of thought. Let's just
Yeah.
like conclude this on that. It's a whole different school
Mhm.
of thought. You know,
Yeah.
Scorsese, I mean, you see a typical Marvel guy showing up in an Audi e-tron because of the technology and all the bells and whistles. But what do you
Yeah.
expect from Scorsese? Maybe,
Vintage
maybe
Chevy.
a Chevy Impala, a 72, the fastback.
Yeah.
The man has love for classics. The man uses conventional ideas and practices. So all
Yeah.
of this, I personally feel he did not mean any disrespect,
Same.
but you know,
100%.
it's maybe the age gap just acting up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so one last thing I would like to talk to you about is what you expect as a Marvel fan. Because at the end,
Yeah.
we are here talking about Marvel and we have discussed about various other things and various other topics and aspects. But
Yeah.
coming back to Marvel, before we conclude this whole thing, um,
Yeah.
what do you expect? And when I mean expect,
Hmm.
not what has been teased, and the Toby Maguire and Andrew Garfield thing, and there've been
Yeah.
memes going around, whatever. And they've,
Hmm.
Marvel has this great thing because they're going to tell you their lineup for the next few years, and it keeps you
Yeah.
on your toes because okay, every passing day this movie's coming, and
Yeah.
we're looking forward to the next Black Panther movie. We're looking forward
Yeah.
to Thor, Love and
Love
Thunder.
and Thunder. That's gonna be amazing. I love
Natalie Portman
Natalie
coming
Portman.
back. It's so much. There's so much going. And oh, by the way,
Yeah.
they just wrapped up shooting.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Thor
Matt
Love and
Damon is
Thunder.
also there, and
Yes.
Thor is back in
Yes.
shape, and he's looking bigger than ever. Chris Hemsworth.
Looks amazing. I'm just such a big fan of what they did with Thor. Like, obviously, this is a little bit off topic, but I'm just going to mention it briefly. But I just love that whole character's arc. They went from Thor: The Dark World, which, in my opinion, is one of the worst MCU
The
movies,
worst MCU
to
movies. I agree.
they
Absolutely.
went directly from that to Thor: Ragnarok, which I think is one of the best
Do
MCU
you know
movies. It's
90% of Ragnarok was improvised?
it's incredible. I know
Crazy.
it's
It's crazy because when we came across the first Thor movie, he was this glorified man, this tall, handsome,
he had zero
blonde
personality.
man, this huge
He had
man.
zero personality.
Hmm?
He had zero
Zero
personality.
personality, absolutely no character as such, but
Yeah.
had that shining armor, had the Munir, and he had everything. He was practically a god. He was
Hmm.
supposed to take Asgard. He was
The
supposed to be
throne. Yeah, he
crowned
was
king
supposed to take the
right in
throne.
the beginning of the movie before he
Hmm.
acted stupid. And
Yeah.
but how they came from that to Ragnarok is impeccable. I mean,
Yeah.
when Odin
Incredible.
left, it made me teary. I
That's
actually
also
started,
one of the
yeah, it started
that's also one of
like a
the
father.
strengths of that's also one of the strengths of the MCU. I feel like that movie couldn't have been possible without the director that they chose. They keep on picking these small directors that you don't expect to do these things, and it just ends up incredible. But anyways, back to your point about what am I expecting, what I want to see with MCU in the future.
Because MCU, I believe, works very heavily on what their
Hmm.
consumers want.
Yeah.
Something DC still not, like, still hasn't
Yeah.
figured
Of
out. So
course.
what you as an individual, uninfluenced right now, under no influence, under no pressure, would
Yeah.
expect from MCU?
So, see, I sort of split this train of thought into two things. So basically, there's a whole Disney Plus side. There's all these Disney Plus series, and
Hmm.
then there's the movies. In terms of the movies, obviously, the most successful movie franchise in the history of the world so far is the Avengers. And although I love Avengers, Avengers Endgame was is my favorite movie of all time. I think I don't want to see another Avengers movie for maybe give it 5, 6, 7 years, because I want that time to spend. I want to spend time with these new characters. I want to spend time with Shang-Chi, with the Eternals. I want to get to know who they are. So by the time that by the time that Peter Parker, hopefully, I'm even getting goosebumps thinking about it. When you know, in 7, 8 years from now, when Peter Parker says Avengers Assemble, it's gonna be incredible because
That
me and
gave me
you, like,
goosebumps.
I'm literally getting goosebumps thinking about it. But like, because me and you, we were in cinemas when we heard Steve Rogers say Avengers Assemble, and that's the first time I've ever cried tears of joy in my life. But I'm
Same.
just thinking about this when this is gonna happen in the future. I want them to take their time with it, develop the characters. It's not, and this is nothing new for Marvel. They've done this before.
Hmm.
They just
Yeah,
got to do it again, and I think they can do it again.
definitely. And you have to agree on one thing, Meir, that
Mm.
when you have such a concrete and such a glorious legacy established,
Yeah.
it gets difficult for you. It gets difficult for you to live up to the bar you've set for yourself. And I definitely want to see Peter Parker assemble the Avengers, and I want to see
Yeah.
Zuri take up as Black Panther, take up the
Yeah.
mantle of Black
Yeah.
Panther, and I have so many expectations by all these new franchises they've teased, and but I think they should not rush it like other production
100%.
houses are, and they should take the time to establish every single character because we've seen everybody grow. We've seen Hawkeye grow. I mean,
Exactly.
a normal guy running amongst these superhumans,
Gods.
rich
Yeah.
people with a bow and arrow, and his arrows might run out.
That
He
that
might
line
run
from
out of his
Avengers Age of
arrows.
Ultron is, do you remember that line from Avengers Age of Ultron when they're in the shed and
Ah,
Scarlet Witch is like, uh she's like having a breakdown, and Clint is like, oh, the world's ending, and I have a bow and arrow, and it's
ah.
just it's just so funny to me.
And by
But
the
yeah,
end, they made Clint such a relatable character because
in
his
Endgame he's
family and
beautiful.
everything. He's
He's
beautiful.
he's
The
It's
persona,
amazing. He
The
went
Ronin
from
persona he took up, it was beautiful.
someone that I didn't really care that much about in the movies up until Endgame to one of like my favorite characters, and now he has his Hawkeye series coming with Disney Plus as well,
Happy
with
it is.
Haley Steinfeld. But then again, while you and I say these things about, we want them to take their time and stuff like that, I don't think there's an ounce of like worry in our minds. With
So,
I trust Marvel. You know what I mean? Like, I'm as much as I know I want these things, I know they're gonna deliver. When's the last time Marvel missed? You know what I mean? And obviously eventually it will happen. Like, of course there will be bumps along the way. They can make, every movie cannot be a banger, but they've done so much that now I think even if there is a miss, it's fine. Like, for example, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series that just came out, I thought it was great, but I thought, I don't know, like, in terms of my overall ranking of the MCU, I didn't think it was that incredible.
hmm.
But then again, that doesn't reduce my love for the MCU any less, you know. But yeah, and in terms of other expectations, other things that I want, I just want them to do different stuff, you know. And this is already evident. Shang-Chi, the trailer, did you see that? Incredible. Eternals, the trailer for Eternals was amazing, and it looks, they've got Chloe Zhao directing it, who just won the Oscar for best, I think, was it best director or best picture?
I am not sure.
One of the two. But yeah, it's just, yeah, I can already just see signs of them doing stuff that I want and stuff that I'm expecting. So yeah,
Well, with that, Mihir, I think we're
yeah,
done. And I'm
perfect.
damn sure we've exceeded the time limit because
Oh, 100%.
it's been more than an hour we've been talking, but let's be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Passionate people don't really care
You and
about
I
it.
could talk about
Time is
this.
relative, dude. It's
Yeah,
relative.
yeah,
You and I can
yeah.
talk about this all day long.
Yeah.
Get the
Oh, I
reference?
really enjoyed
Get
this.
the reference? First
I understood the
Avenger,
reference.
Captain America. But again,
No, but yeah, this was really fun.
it was indeed. And I'm
Yeah,
so glad you came on board, and I'm so glad I had you
of course.
in particular because you are one of the most loyal Marvel Cinematic Universe fans I've ever seen. Somebody
Hmm.
who actually invests the time and energy and the money to,
Hmm.
experience the whole
Yeah.
thing and
Hmm.
research and whatever. But thank you so much, Mihir, again. With that
No
note,
worries.
um,
Anytime, buddy.